welcome to tonight's Dino Bidala Show on Sirius XM Channel 127, Tuesday, February 2nd. It's Groundhog Day. And if you didn't hear, the Groundhog came out and said the impeachment trial is going to begin next week. And this Republican senators, once again, like last year, are going to cower and hide and not do the right thing for America. It's very simple. This trial coming up next week, here's the framing. Republican senators, you either stand with Donald Trump or you stand with the United States of America. There's no overlap. It's pretty clear. And what's remarkable, and we'll go through it more in detail on my show tonight on Sirius XM from 6 to 9 p.m., the House Democrats, the trial managers, released their 80-plus page brief. It's a great brief. It lays out a great roadmap for convicting Donald Trump. It also makes it clear that the impeachment trial is only the start. Donald Trump must be charged criminally. They do an amazing job. A lot of former prosecutors involved in writing this brief, including Congressman Ted Lieu. You have Jamie Raskin, the lead Democratic House manager in this. And let me just read the first line in their brief. This is the very first line. I think it sets the tone for everything. They wrote, "This trial arises from President Donald J. Trump's incitement of insurrection against the republic he swore to protect." Donald Trump incited an insurrection against the country, the republic he swore to protect. And right now, I think it's getting lost a little bit because a lot of the coverage has begun Republican position and Democrat position on this. No, there was a deadly insurrection incited by Donald Trump to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. People were killed, including a police officer and 140 other police officers wounded and injured, all in the name of Trump to stop the peaceful transfer of power. This is stunning. Everywhere else in the world, throughout history, if you wage a coup and you fail, you suffer consequences. And those consequences are not, oh, you're going to have a trial in the Senate and maybe you can't run for office again. No, the consequences, a range of spectrum, big range. But in America, the penalty should be life in prison for Donald Trump, especially at his age, it would be life in prison. I want to go through a little of the brief here because, you're going to hear Republicans argue, oh, January 6th speech Trump gave, he said the word peaceful. He said the word peaceful one time. He said the word fight literally 20 times. But it's not just about January 6th. And what I love about the House Democrats' brief is that they lay out the long journey to get us to January 6th. And this journey, I think, is best described as the radicalization process. Just like with ISIS radicalizes people. This was the radicalization process by Donald Trump of Americans who might otherwise be good people, who he made into terrorists. This is all Donald Trump. In fact, in the brief, they talk Donald Trump is singularly responsible for this attack. And I agree. They didn't use the word terrorist. I do, because I feel the need to be even more blunt, but the brief is great. It starts out talking about Donald Trump during the summer and the fall, refusing to say he would accept the results of the election. We all remember that. He was laying the groundwork. As psychological experts would call that, they would call that priming. He was priming his base to be there for him when he then says the election is fraud. We all remember him saying the only way it can lose is if there's fraud. That wasn't a warning. That was priming. So it was priming his base to get them ready. And they were ready. They were ready for him. It goes through Donald Trump's legal efforts to challenge the election. And they put it bluntly. He had every right to challenge the election. I agree. And he did. Over 60 lawsuits filed by himself and his allies. And they lost everyone, including 9 before Trump appointed judges. As the brief points out, quoting some of these judges, if there was real fraud, I'm a lawyer, I could have proved it. I mean, you could have done it. You would have won one case somewhere. When you lose them all, it's pretty clear what's going on. The reality is, so Donald Trump lost in our judiciary and then said, well, I'm now the judge. I'm the jury. I will decide. And sadly enough, some of his supporters have subscribed to that, as we've seen in polls and even calling my show literally last night. Here's the reality. In America, if you believe in our Constitution, if you have a grievance, a legal grievance, where do you go? Well, our Constitution says you go to the judiciary. When you go to the judiciary, if you lose, you've exhausted your legal remedies. If you don't, like Trump and a lot of his supporters go, well, no, we don't believe in the judiciary anymore, which they're saying is they don't believe in our Constitution anymore. And they really don't. They happen to be born here, but many of them don't subscribe to it. What they want is power. So the brief goes on from there, talking about Donald Trump's radicalization process, his tweets in December talking about January 6th, the rally, be there, it's going to be wild, exact quotes, wild, which seems to me like a code word for something I don't get from Proud Boys or the militia groups that like Wilding. I assume that's probably what it was short for. Other tweets in January 1st, big protest, stop the steal, be there. December 26th, he tweeted, if a Democratic candidate had an election rigged and stolen, the Democratic senators would consider it an act of war and fight to the death. So there he is priming his base, fight to the death, fight it out, kill people. Look, January 6th wasn't a random day that Donald Trump brought them there for. It wasn't just a Trump rally. It could have happened any day. He brought his supporters from around the country for a month, he was tweeting, to do one thing. Because he did this, he didn't do this at night. He didn't do it over the weekend before. He did it January 6th starting at 11 a.m. to end at 1 p.m. because federal law mandated that the Electoral College certification happens by Congress on January 6th at 1 p.m. So he ended his speech perfectly so his supporters could walk down to the Capitol. It's a 20-minute walk from where they were. That's it, 20 minutes. He did that on purpose. That was the backstop. If he cannot win through the courts, if Mike Pence wouldn't do the wrong thing and overturn the election, the backstop was these thousands of people that he had brought around the country, from around the country, who he had radicalized, who then would descend on the Capitol to stop the certification. The brief holds no punches. It goes through remarkable stuff about, and there's a whole section entitled, and you got to read it. It's jaw-dropping. President Trump's dereliction of duty during the attack. It talks about what Trump was doing during the attack from open source reporting, which is all going to come in at the trial, such as during the siege, it was on TV, and Trump, according to staffers and reporting around him, was borderline enthusiastic because it meant the certification was being derailed. Another senior administration official said President Trump was, quote, delighted. Now, you could subpoena people to testify in this trial. I think you're going to hear it. Here's even more stunning, and I forgot about this. During the siege, Trump's at 1 o'clock, it ends. Even before 1 o'clock, some of the Proud Boys and others were around the Capitol fighting with the police. At 1:49 p.m., this is just 10 minutes before it was really breached, the Capitol, Trump is tweeting, our country's had enough. We will not take it anymore. That's what this is all about. You have to be strong. So Trump is encouraging. He's watching on TV. His people have descended on the Capitol. They're already there. They're surrounding it. He's telling them, we've had enough. We won't take it. You have to be strong. Capitol is breached. At 2:24, he continues to tweet, encouraging his supporters to attack, saying Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, close quotes. The inference is clear. Mike Pence didn't have the courage, but do you? Stand up for me, fight for Trump. And then the brief goes through all the Trump supporters we've seen in videos in the Capitol in real time, saying we're here for Trump. Trump invited us. Trump sent us here. We're doing this for Donald Trump. It is remarkable. And then finally they point out that Trump failed in his duties as commander-in-chief in not immediately taking action to protect Congress and the Capitol. It talks about pleas by Republicans, Kevin McCarthy and others, put out a statement telling people stop. Others pleading for the National Guard to be sent in more quickly, and you needed Pentagon approval. There are a lot of assertions that was delayed on purpose by Trump. I think in the trial we're going to find that out once and for all, one way or the other. I don't really know. That's the reporting we're going to find out in the trial. It also goes through Donald Trump's statements that he made later that afternoon, which would say on one hand, peace, and then minutes later about we've been robbed. And this is what happens when an election is stolen from people. Look, the brief concludes failure to convict would embolden future leaders to attempt to retain power by any and all means, and would suggest that there is no line a president cannot cross. I agree. But this impeachment is not holding Donald Trump accountable. This is step one. Donald Trump must be charged with insurrection. He must be charged with seditious conspiracy. If he's not, our legal system means nothing. Our Constitution means nothing. And you will be giving a green light for another Trump, himself or Don Jr. or Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or any of them on the right to copy this and maybe be more successful in it in the future. So if you believe in our Constitution, if you're a real progressive patriot like we are, Donald Trump's got to be charged criminally. We'll talk about that more on my show tonight in greater detail. Thanks for tuning in. My show is live 6 to 9 p.m. on channel 127 on Sirius XM. There's free trials. Go to the website. Check it out. Join us. We've got a lot of work to do, my friends. Believe me. Get involved. You want progress? Stay active. Thanks for tuning into my preview.